Hello, this is Lisa Rusczyk
And Donna Murphy.
with the podcast We Are All Psychic. And if you're watching on Spotify and or YouTube, both at the same time, that's cool. We have Tori, and Tori's gorgeous, and she is like got the rock star vibe and the podcaster vibe. Tori, would you like to say hello?
Hey everybody, I'm Tori Costa.
What up? They're saying, what up? And Tori, we have a question for you right away. Do you think we are all psychic?
Absolutely. And that's why I love this podcast, because I always tell people that. Like, I'm sure you guys get this sometimes where people are like, oh my God, you're a psychic. But it's like, you are a psychic too. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. Well, I don't really let people know. I mean, if they ask me what I do for work, then I tell them. Or if I'm like getting to know somebody and it's comfortable, we've already approached the subject in some way, and I want to, and I have cards with me, I'll be like, you want some cards? You know, if it comes up. But usually I don't have any reason to tell anyone I do that unless they ask me what I do for work, or I just feel like being, telling them something personal.
Yeah, of course. You have to assess the situation. You can't lead with that, because I've done that before, and it's like a lot.
There's a lot of, what are you doing that for? Why do you do that?
Yeah, are they get afraid of you? Like, oh my God, can you read me?
Yeah, I don't want people to like run away.
Yeah.
I know, like, yeah. It's weird that we all have that instinct, like witches do, you know?
Yeah. I think it's stored in the DNA.
I think it is too.
Kind of like the when, the where,
Yeah.
If it gets shared.
Yes. We have like DNA memories and of being like hung and stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Burned at the stake.
Yeah, burned and tortured and fun things like that. Yeah. And if you're not, no, listeners, if you just jumped into this podcast and you're randomly like, what the heck is this? Yeah, we're talking about how witches were treated in the past. If you didn't know, in the way past.
As a New England girly, like, I feel that deep in my bones. I'm like, I know some of my ancestors.
Have you been to Salem before? Have you been listening?
Yeah, I have been to Salem.
What's it like?
For me, it was kind of underwhelming. Like, I mean, it's really small. Like, it's kind of that classic New England little town city vibe, but it's cool to see. I mean, like, I think I'm just so used to like New England infrastructure that I'm like, okay, another New England town,
You're from New England originally? You grew up there and stuff? Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what were you around this kind of metaphysical, spiritual kind of thing growing up? I mean,
Yeah, well, like, the thing that's interesting about New England compared to like, other areas such as like the West Coast, which is another place I've lived, is that like you have this really strong psychic undercurrent, but I think that there's still this like remnant of Puritan culture that affects the life there. So it's not, the same it was in like the 1700s or the 1600s, obviously, but there's this kind of like traditional culture there. And I think, the world is changing so much, and there's a lot of people that I think are really drawn to the psychic world out there. But it's kind of like underground, and someone actually said that to me once. I think it was at a hair salon, actually. And she was like, yeah, like, cause she was kind of like, she was on the wavelength and she was reading me, and my mom was there, and she was like, yeah, like, I can feel you guys. But, oh my God, my mic is cutting out. But like, everything here is like the old world still. It's not like the new world. But yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I kind of feel that.
And it's the oldest part of the United States, as far as being, people living there and settling and building towns and all that.
Like Philadelphia.
It's the oldest part. Yeah, it's the oldest part of the country.
Right. And you can feel that.
It gets newer as you go west.
Exactly. But you can feel that like when you go, because the thing about New England that I think is different is that there's all these like little cities. Like, it's not like the West Coast where it's like, okay, San Francisco and Los Angeles and Seattle.
You drive 8 hours and you get to
like you drive 30 minutes and you're like, oh, I'm in Providence now. Oh, okay. Like now I'm in Boston. Like, and then there's all these little cities in between. Like, I'm originally from a city called Fall River, Massachusetts, which was the home of Lizzie Borden, axe murderer, so there's a lot of like witchy energy in Fall River as well. And I love it, but it's also like there's a heaviness there too,
Yeah,
like in New England in general.
I've been there. I have a lot of family from Philly, like, this, but I have a lot of family in Connecticut and Philadelphia. I did. And that I spent a lot of time. We spent every Christmas and summer up there, so I spent a lot of time up there. And there is like a weird vibe there, and that whole area, like something's missing, is what it feels like. I don't know what's missing, but it feels like everybody's looking for it too, is what it feels like in the energy. Like something's missing, but we don't know what it is, and we don't even know we're looking for it, but we're looking for it. It's kind of what I pick up from up
That's
there.
a really good way to put it. I never thought of it like that, but I think you're spot on.
I felt that way when I was up there too. I kind of picked it up. I would kind of like, what? So how were you exposed to medicine? Were you popping out of the womb psychic? I mean, like, whatever, I guess, put it that way.
I feel
out that way, she said.
I feel like, yes. I mean, I have Pluto really close to my ascendant point. So like, I feel like I don't know. Like, I feel like my mom kind of already knew when I was born that I was like special in that way, and especially as a young child, I'd have these like really prophetic dreams. And like, my mom would always say like, oh, we could never like hide anything from you, because you'd always like know. Like when we got our dog Coconut, like the day before, I was like, I just want like a cute little white dog. And like, I described the whole thing. And then the next day she was like, oh, like, she was like, why does she already know this is supposed to be a surprise? And then the next day we went to get the dog.
Do you remember coming up with that at all? You remember that happening? Like how did you know about that dog? Was it your imagination? You really suddenly wanted it? Or was it
like
you? Or I mean, what do you think happened there? Do you remember?
I mean, to be honest, it was inspired by the American Girl dolls dog Coconut, because I was really into that as a kid. But it's just like the timing, I think, is something that is interesting like my whole life, because and I think this is also tying into a broader topic of like psychic imagination. Like, I really like that you use that word imagination, because a lot of times when you're channeling things, you're kind of using that part of your brain, like that an artist would, And so I think as a child, like you're closer to that realm. And so sometimes you're not like thinking of it like, oh, I'm having a vision, like, but you're, you're imagining something, but you feel really close to it. And then it just happens, and like that would happen to me a lot in my life. Like even with like heavier themes, like when I played basketball, I knew that the guy there, like one of the guys that worked for the league, I could feel he was a pedophile. And I told my parents, I was like, that guy's creepy. And my parents were like, no, he's a nice guy. And then like a few months later, he was convicted of like molesting a child.
How old are you?
I was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or something. Like nothing ever happened to me, thank God. But like,
even for a 10-year-old to pick up and say, since this guy's, into that, so that's really wild. I mean, to me it is.
Yeah, but the thing for me was that like my family was really Christian growing up, and we were really involved in the church, and I did music in the church from a young age. And so I always felt this like really close connection to God and to the spirit realm, but like obviously like it wasn't allowed in that context to like, talk about astrology and star signs, and, like all of that stuff was kind of off limits. But like, I went through like a lot in my spiritual awakening journey with like, having to reject the church, but then now kind of like accepting Christian principles and, believing in God and Jesus again, like, but in like a, I don't know, like in a different way. Yeah, in a way
you're not trying to praise them. You're sharing with them your life. Yeah, like they want you to
more integrated.
Anyway. That's how I put it. Anyway, it looks like you're doing.
Yeah, so like, I think I used to like reject that part of my upbringing where I was kind of like, oh, like I wish I never had to go through this, because there was some religious trauma intertwined with that. But now I'm like thankful that I grew up that way, because I think it helped like open my spiritual tentacles, from a young age. Like I remember
questioning things.
Yeah, like I remember being in church and like really feeling like this like presence of God, and like, I think that like having that liberty to feel that, and not having like a community that's like, oh no, nothing exists, like everything's just atheist, like that helped me, kind of plant the seed. Yeah.
Yeah, think about that way about my Catholic roots, and you say that.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
I like that basis I have.
I did go through a whole rejection thing. And then even though it's not that I've embraced Catholicism per se, now, but having had the experience and integrating that into who I am now without necessarily adopting doctrine or dogma has really helped me. Because again, that idea of a true direct connection, although the Catholics aren't big on direct connection. You really, it's like, well, you really need a priest. And I'm like, well, you really don't.
Yeah.
But still, having had the experience in church of feeling connected to the divine, of having the connection with God, I feel much the same way as what you described, because I feel now that there's real value in that, and that is a part of who I am. And so there's no longer a sense of having to reject any part of that, other than kind of call it the man-made stuff, or the person-made stuff of doctrine, dogma, whatever, because that's not really the essence.
Yeah, those are laws about how we do life, not how we spiritually experience life. Those are like laws. A lot of the stuff that the churches say, laws. I mean, they're like where our laws come from, kind of, right? Legal stuff from what church says, and I kind of see it that way. So, when did you first say to yourself, like, okay, I'm psychic, and you were okay with it? I mean, you're always like that. Were you always okay with it, and just kind of kept it on the down low? Oh, yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me what happened there. What were your experiences going through that stuff?
Yeah, I think that there was always this part of me, but I never knew what to do with it, nor did I ever have someone in my life that could kind of guide me with those abilities. So I kind of just didn't develop them, and I think that they were developed in other ways, like creatively, artistically, spiritually, in the church, and how I described, but it kind of existed in this Pandora's box, I feel like, until I reached the age of around 18, 19, 20. I forget exactly when, but that was my first reading I did with an astrologer, my first psychic reading, if you count astrologers as psychics. And his name is Gary Gomes.
We're all psychic.
We're all psychic. Yeah. He's based
even astrologers.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's all part of the same wavelength. It's just
interesting
tools,
you say that, because we have a regular. I was a real quick short story. Interrupt you. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm so curious. Our regular Carol Starr, first podcast, she didn't know how to answer the question. I think her answer to "Do you think we're all psychic?" was do I have to say yes? And the last time she was on the podcast, she says she's more psychic than she's an astrologer now. So over the 5 years I've watched her, 6 years or so in the industry, being an astrologer and not thinking she's psychic, and she'd tell me that privately, I don't think I'm psychic. And then now she is embracing it, it's cool. Yeah. Anyway, I want to hear this. So she's going through what you're about to tell. She went through.
Yeah, well, no, this is a good conversation though, because I have something I want to get back to with that too. But to finish the story, so this guy, his name is Gary Gomes. I'm going to give him a little shout out because he's really, really talented as a Vedic astrologer and a really gentle and kind man. He's based out of New Bedford, Massachusetts. And so he, I think he really inspired me, not just because the reading was so accurate and all the things that he said were going to happen did, but because he's eclectic, and I can see that he's kind of speaking on New England, he's one of those people that I think has found the answer in some ways, in terms of astrology, the psychic stuff, and he claims that, and he's a little different, maybe at some points he's felt like a bit of an outcast. I don't know, maybe this is speculation, but he's different from most of the people there, and I liked that about him, and I felt safe in that energy. So that's kind of what opened me up to wow, this stuff is a power, and it's real, and there's a way to learn. It's not just this guy just knows all this stuff naturally. He studied astrology.
This is the first person you really talked to about this stuff in your life ever, or just really opened up to him? And I mean,
yeah, I mean, at the time, there was some friends in my mom's life that were also kind of on that wavelength. So I think that they were also kind of helping in the background with that too. But this was the first reading I had. So it really opened, it kind of erased any doubt that I had of oh, this stuff is evil, or it's just, people who are really good at guessing, or all of this stuff is okay, no, there's legitimacy here, because this man is also really well educated. He has a doctorate, and he's, really well spoken. So, and for someone who I feel I'm very intelligent, I connected with that because it didn't just feel like woo, like there was some
you could
grounding
talk on
in
your level and of intelligence with him.
yeah.
About
And then
these
like
things. Yeah.
yeah, and there was like I don't know, I think after that it like unlocked the door, but the door was still kind of closed for me to like then eventually come back and open it. But at the time, I was young, I was in college, I was like in my partying era, and like that really dulls your senses. And and at the same time, I think that I was searching for something in that time of my life. I was searching for meaning. I was searching for identity. And, eventually, like after graduating, like very shortly after graduating college, is when I really fell into this whole world and started studying astrology. And I got my first tarot deck, which was actually in Nashville.
What was your first? Oh, I got my first tarot deck here too.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. What did you get? What
Yeah.
was your first tarot deck?
It's the Morgan Greer deck. Like it's kind of like 70s vibes.
Yeah. Where'd you get it in Nashville? I got mine at the Barnes and Noble on Broadway when it was there. I think
Oh,
it's
nice.
a
It
long
was
time.
actually a gift from my best friend, Natalie, who lives in California.
Oh,
We had all gone to Nashville for my birthday, so she gave it to me as a gift. And
that's
they
great.
always say, like, there's like a little folklore with the
yeah,
tarot decks, like your first one's
yeah,
supposed to be gifted.
Yeah, the
So it was
only one
pretty
that
cool.
worked for me, I had several before. The one that worked for me was a gift. I
Really?
always liked
Which
them.
one was that?
I had them once in a while. I can't. How do they work? But then I got the Osho Zen, and it had words on it. Someone gave it to me, and I'm like words, and the words like
mhm,
well, it was like basically it's based on the Rider Waite, but it doesn't look anything
yeah,
like it, and it
yeah.
has
Oh,
words
okay.
on it, and they have kind of different meanings, but pretty much the same thing. I just read it through intuition and the words, and then eventually I did learn the traditional tarot.
Mhm.
But I used that
Yeah.
deck for about 15 years before I learned traditional tarot.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to share about that era too was like another thing that happened. This wasn't directly to me, but my dad was like on a business trip and he met this psychic randomly on a train. And like she kind of was just like tapping into his energy. She was like, "Can I read for you?" And he was like, kind of like, "What do you mean?" And then like she just started going into this whole thing and she was really connecting to my energy. She was like, "You have a daughter, her head is down like this. She's studying a lot," because I was in college and I went to a really rigorous school. I was taking a lot of crazy difficult courses. So she was like tapping into this. And she was like, she's different. Like she has a gift. Like I can't remember all the details, but she just like read me like a book to him. And then he like came back and told me, and I was like, okay, something is going on in the spirit realm. Like
Yeah.
what ancestor is calling me into this like, psychic path, but this,
Yeah.
all of these things would kind of like happen. And I like looking back, it's synchronicity, and it's like in the moment you don't see like what it's guiding you toward, but now I'm like, oh, like that
That's
was
so
kind of the
true.
beginning.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
I was the same way. I didn't know what this was leading me to.
Yeah.
Still
And like
don't.
we still don't, but
Yeah.
Some
Some days, but
days I
a
feel like
lot
I
of days,
know, but
yeah, yeah, but a lot of days, no.
just
yeah.
gotta. Do you feel like you just gotta, or do you like it? I mean, I like both. I like it, and I want to work in this
Mhm.
field and pursue the energy work and learn more and stuff like that. I love it. I
Yeah.
learned more than I think I had natural stuff going on, like everybody does, but mainly I worked on it. Um,
Yeah.
and I was just like, did you find it was that same? Did you work on it? Did you develop new skills and stuff like that? Like, did you find that you could flex other muscles that you weren't aware of and stuff as you learned more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like going back to your point about the person you mentioned who said she was more of an astrologer and now she identifies more as a psychic. I feel like that's a very natural path for people because like
Yeah.
astrology is something that even if you don't feel like you just naturally have like clairvoyance or clairaudience or whatever, like you can study it and you can track patterns. And there's something that's
Mhm.
kind of technical about it that I think appeals to
It's tricking yourself
the
that it's
left brain side.
scientific, but it's still very, very much psychic. Yeah, I mean, there
It
are
is. It
there are
is.
rules to it that are really amazing how it works. And I was the same
Right.
way because I started with palmistry, and to me,
Mm.
palmistry and, and astrology are pretty much the same. And all the names of
Mm.
stuff in palmistry is named after astrology,
Right.
and it kind of works the same way. And everyone's hands have different lines. And
Yeah.
they change and stuff like that. So that's really interesting that you say that because I started out that way, and then I eventually grew into mediumship and stuff like that, tarot, and then I finally, I think I was like 35 before I was like, okay, I'm still not sure, but I think I'm going to work in this field. I wanted to. Well, I really wanted to.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's like when you have that calling, it just kind of unfolds and there's these different challenges you might face. Like for me, I think I've always felt like since I started with my first tarot deck and getting into astrology, I always felt called to like translate the messages for other people too. But I think there was a lot that I had to learn in terms of like the business side, like how do you successfully run a psychic business, and B, like
it's
the energy.
It's a complicated thing.
Yeah, like the energy protection side of it too.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. The management, energy, just management in general. I don't like to work if I can't do a really good job, or I think I can do a good job.
Right.
Like I don't want to spending a lot of money on me if I'm just half-assing it and I can't put everything into it. I won't work. I can't push myself. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's actually the third point I was going to say too, is like you also have to develop some like confidence in your abilities as a reader, like which I think in the beginning, like and this is also like part of like maybe my people pleasing issues of like, you want to do a good job and you want to like, but then if you start getting nervous of like, oh, am I seeing this right? Like, am I saying the right thing? If you're too in your head, it blocks the channel. So you have to find this balance of like, yes, I want to help you and put my all into this, but I also kind of need to be like in my own like realm a little bit, tapping into this and not being so like perceptive of what you're like, what the person, how
you
the
might
person
get confused and think what they are thinking is your intuition. I've had that happen where they're feeling into empathically, like their fears of him never calling again.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I know he's never going to call. I'm like, no, that's not me. We pull this out, separate.
Right.
The cards are talking to the guy. That kind of. Do you have that happen, Donna?
It's a really interesting dynamic because you want to maintain obviously your connection with your questioner, right? With who's sitting with you. And at the same time, again, if you're empathic, you've got that can turn into noise or distraction because you're picking up so much of them emotionally. And then the other thing, like Tori mentioned, is that idea, because all of those questions, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, the questions of, am I getting this right? Is this landing right? Am I seeing it right? Whatever, those are ego questions.
Yes.
And as soon as the ego kind of steps into it never goes away, but if it steps into the forefront and begins to kind of try to manage the show, you're right. It just suddenly it's like things turn off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've cut off that connection and you have to reconnect by getting the ego to kind of sidle off here and say, I'm going to trust, right?
Yes.
To me, it's really trust.
You know what?
It took a long time to learn that. And I'm not saying I'm totally adept at it.
Oh, yeah.
The more I trust, the better I read.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I kind of want to transition here because I think this is a really great place to bring up that Tori is a musician. And I just want to bring that up because when I was younger and I was feeling energies and stuff and I didn't know how to protect or what this was or what was happening, I was a musician. I am a musician too. So I really got into music. It's the first real passion I had outside of writing and anything else. And I really had no interest until I got into music, and then I felt like at that age, like you said, you weren't interested in working with the energy at like around 19, 20, but weren't you into music by then? Weren't you already like playing and stuff? Don't you feel like you were like working with the energy through the music at that time in a way? Kind of.
Yes, but here's the thing. Like that was kind of like the dark times for me because my whole childhood, like up until age 18, I was super into piano. I also learned cello, guitar, and I sang a little bit too, and I wrote my own music, but I was really shy about the singing side of things and the songwriting side. I went off to because it's more vulnerable than like, having this instrument that kind of blocks your body and like the voicing is all through the instrument. So it's different when it's you, especially if you're singing original stuff that's like your stories. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah, but it freaked me out at that age too. I had a gig at a coffee shop my first time solo and I walked out in the middle of the first song. I couldn't do it anymore. I got freaked out.
Aww.
I had such bad stage fright. So I understand. Yeah, it's hard to do, but it's so exciting. I kept trying,
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's how you know that like you're supposed to not give it up is it scares you, but it pushes you in a good way,
Yeah. It was worth all my favorite part was like a band practice or sitting in my room writing one or something, And I did
Yeah.
production later, so, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that at that age, part of my problem was that I wasn't really doing music at that point because I just went off to college and like the school I went to was not very artsy at all. Like there was not really a music
Oh, where'd you
scene.
go? I'm curious. You
I
said
went to Georgetown in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C.,
yes.
which is a great school, but like it's
Yeah.
just, it's very like, everyone's like a little mini professional. They like arrive on campus in their blazer, their briefcase. They're like, yeah, I'm ready to be like, you know, the next president. Like
I went to Auburn, so I can't imagine that. Yeah. That's crazy. Did you have to like get dressed every day, like dress up in heels and stuff like that? Like you're going to work or
it wasn't like expected to do that. I'm just saying more like the culture there was like very like pre-professional, you know, like people were very ambitious, which is good. Like I like to be around, you know, ambition and like that's motivating. But for me, it was just like, I think it was kind of something I had to go through, but it was separating me from what was in here, you know? And part of that, you know, was also the psychic stuff too, because like it wasn't, I mean, it's a Catholic school and like I don't really feel like there was a lot of like interest or like that was not in the mainstream at that time too. And a lot has also changed in the past 10 years. So maybe it is now, but when I was there, it was just I felt like in order to fit in, I couldn't do the things that I really wanted to do.
And of course, when you're 19, 18, 20 and you're in school and you want to fit in, you know, you want friends and
absolutely.
party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to do that stuff. That's fun. Yeah.
And I never, like, I feel like I never fit in, like, you know, being an Aquarius, like, that's kind of our plight a little bit. And sometimes people, like, I've had different eras of my life, like, where I feel like people have thought, like, oh, she's, like, popular, like, she's well known, she's, like, good at this, but, like, I never felt like I fit in, you know, even to this day. But I think part of getting older is, like, being like, all right, that's cool. Like no one actually fits in.
No one does. That's what I think you finally.
It's hard to feel
understood.
I think everybody wants to feel understood, and it's very hard to feel that way, even if you are understood by someone. If you don't even understand yourself, especially, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and we change all day long, and every day, today, everything that happens to us, big or small, is going to change us in some way, or by our reactions and how we process it and how we take it.
Yeah.
Further down the road if we do and stuff like that. It's just like, I don't know, it's fascinating. But so I do have to ask, when did you get into music and start performing and writing with bands and stuff? When did that start happening for you?
Yeah, so my artist career, I actually launched in 2020 of all years. I had been planning. I know, that's why I got a bit of a slow start, but I'm looking back, I'm grateful because I feel like I entered the music industry in a time where, you know, there's so much change happening. And I think this is still going on. But in change, there's also a lot of new opportunities. And I think that like when I entered into the music scene, like that's really when like, you know, TikTok was popping off and like viral songs. And like that's not necessarily my goal as a musician. But at the same time, that cultural shift has really carved out a lane for independent artists that I don't think was there in the 2010s or the 2000s. That's now here in the 2020s. So yeah, that's when I put out my first single, Teu Amor, which means your love. And I from there, like it's bilingual. Yeah.
Bilingual. Is it Portuguese? Is that what that language is? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think like this was always something I wanted to do because like I had my praise band when I was growing up in the church as like a teenager and I was the leader of the band. And then like as I got to be an older teenager, I remember like performing my first original song for the first time at a recital. But like, and like I remember that summer before I went to college, I had so much inside of me. Like I wanted to write and I was like, I felt like I was right on the brink of like choosing that path. But then I kind of like got pulled out of it for like 5 years because it's like, no, you got to be an adult now. You know, like you got to get your life together and like be serious. And this is like a hobby you had as a kid. But I think reclaiming that once I graduated was like the best gift I could have ever given to myself because I've truly felt like since I was a kid, like I would feel like the only thing I wanted to do was be on a stage at a piano and singing songs that I wrote with people singing along. Like I just wanted to share Like, you know, and I thought
That's
about
so
like
energetic. I mean, when you do that, you giving back and they give it back and you're projecting it out. It's too intense for me.
yeah.
Like what you're talking about. What you're saying is you love it, right? You can give and take with the audience. And it
Yeah,
feels
and that's right. And that's the thing. Like it scared me so much at that age too. Like it was like this like fantasy, but it never felt like it could be real until I just kind of realized one day that like I'm never gonna like feel fulfilled unless I just find the courage to do this. And then
yeah.
it was like the world, you know,
Yeah.
and fast forward to 2020, the world is like in a crazy place. It still is in a crazy place. I'm like, well, you know, I think there's like this meme on the internet where it's like the world is so bad that I'm actually following my dream. Like that's how I felt. I was like, well, I might as well just follow my dream now.
Yeah. At this point, why not? Right?
A lot of people thought that way, I think, around the end of 2020, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
But by
Yeah.
then, you know. That's
Yeah. So this was kind of started it, you know, I would say like really in the past like 2 to 3 years is when I've started like hitting the live scene and like really, you know, getting more traction with that. And that's just been, I think, something that, yeah, has really developed me as a musician. But it's also just like, that's what I live for, you know?
You
Like
think
I
you'd
love
ever
going to,
play in Nashville sometime? Do you think you'd
I
ever be
want
out here?
to,
You got a
yeah.
place to stay?
Mm.
Maybe. But
Maybe.
I
No,
said, if
I
I
need
have a
to
place
make
to
it
stay,
out
you
there.
have a place to stay.
Right.
That's really cool, man.
Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh. Donna, yeah, you've got it better. You must. I could sit here and talk. I've already talked to Tori listeners and watchers a couple times, and I could just talk to you forever. But you must have
Oh,
some.
Well, and all that we're talking about all has a very strong, to me, there's a humanity to it, right? There's that human component.
right.
And I know one of the things that we just touched on briefly right before we started the podcast was then, so where, how, why does AI now, which is becoming just, you know, huge and completely, I don't know, integrated
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
into
Yeah.
our lives, what do we do with that?
Yeah, we were
Do
talking
we
about
do
this.
anything with that? Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about this, listeners and watchers. Tori and I have talked, and Donna and I have talked about this,
Yeah.
like how AI is kind of distorting reality in a way to where I was thinking, like in the future, possibly in the next few years, people will really have kind of weird definitions of what reality really is. I put out, you guys know this, but listeners and watchers, I usually do my promoting for the podcast mostly on Instagram. And I posted a video and it offered me to do translations in Portuguese, Hindi, and Spanish. And I was like, why not? And it said it had processed them. And I was like, that's weird. It said 24 hours. I was like, it's weird. And I went back the next day and I noticed it and I saw it said translations are finished. We can watch them now. So I did. And the AI changed my lips to move to the words in those languages and used my voice to speak in those languages, the words that I said in English in the video, and it changed it all. Like it was me and my voice, my lips moving
Yeah.
to say Hindi words, and I that kind of made me think about that, like how reality can really just possibly, because it makes in person so much more important suddenly if that can be
Right.
done right now.
Yeah.
In 24 hours, probably if someone's sitting there, yeah, it makes me expand my mind a lot. You're the Aquarius and you're the Aquarius moon, take it. Or, you don't have an Aquarius moon. I always think you do. I always think you've
I
got
know.
Aquarius because you have an
Wait,
Aquarius
real
energy
quick,
to
what's
me.
everyone's
It's
big three?
Yeah, it's so weird because I actually don't, not only do I not have Aquarius in my chart, I have like, other than I think some little asteroid somewhere, I have like no air in my chart. I don't know.
Maybe it's a
Okay.
house. Maybe your
I
Aquarius is
am
in like your
airless.
11th house or something, and that's why I don't know.
Yeah.
But
My big,
my top three are Taurus, and then my moon is Capricorn, and then Cancer rising.
Right, right.
Oh,
I remember your
and
Donna?
chart.
Pisces, Virgo rising, famous song. Pisces, Virgo rising, Leo moon.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm Aquarius sun, Sag rising with Pluto on the ascendant and Virgo moon. Yeah.
Cool. I have the
Very
So,
Sagittarius in my North Node, and the older I get, I'm at 50 now, and the older I get, the more I do feel adventurous. When I was younger, I
yeah.
was so much more, and my descendant is Capricorn,
Mm,
Um, And that's how it was when I was younger, very homebody, I'm still very much like that, but I want to take adventures now. I like starting a podcast when I did it, stuff like that, like being a psychic reader and talking about it in public, and, doing like things I never would have done when I was younger, which is more Sagittarius grown. And listeners, from what I understand, your North Node, my North Node being in Sagittarius, that's where I'm heading in this life. And it's kind of interesting that now that I'm 50, I'm kind of halfway there. So I'm getting more adventurous and wanting to explore and being more philosophical and, not really, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I'm really embracing a lot of those qualities of Sagittarius as I get older. It's kind of neat to read that in the chart and then see it happen. Because I had been told that a long time ago. My first mentor was an astrologer, and my only mentor. And he had said that, told me about the Sagittarius. And how do you, this is Sagittarius rising. I can see that with you, but you'd have so much Virgo energy with that Virgo. You have Virgo moon, you said?
Yeah, and my Virgo moon squares my Pluto, so it's squaring that ascendant point.
I have a square moon club.
I'm a little tortured.
Pluto too. My moon square is Pluto too, and it's a Capricorn moon. It's a terrible placement. It's a really hard placement to have a moon square Pluto.
Yeah, but it also is like, I think some of the deepest people, and that's probably why we're drawn
if you
to
make it.
Like, yeah, if you work with
that's
it.
That's why you're deep. You made it. What house is your Pluto in? I'm just curious if you remember.
Technically, it's the 12th house, but it's literally like minutes away from my ascendant point.
That's right.
So it really has like that's something, if I could talk about this real quick, like I want to get back to the AI distortion thing too, but like that, my ascendant has given me a lot of like issues, I feel like, because with Pluto, it's like such like an absorption thing where like I feel like I didn't realize this when I was younger, but like I could just step in a room and like, like almost like expose like the truth about things, especially with Sagittarius being such like a light of like a beacon of like, systems and this is truth and this is philosophy. Like I really like have, I don't even call it a power. It's just this thing that happens where like I expose things or like, and I don't try and I don't try
like a tower.
I'm like a walking tower
like a tower sometimes. I don't mean to be. Then, it just kind of happens that way. Do you have that too, Donna? Do you have that for other people? Are you their tower sometimes? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I've not had that experience very much, and I don't know if some of that comes from, Tori made mention earlier, and I definitely can relate. I don't know if some of that comes from sort of a previous iteration of myself that was much more attached to pleasing, to people pleasing. But if I finally make the decision, when I finally make the decision to really speak truth, then I absolutely speak truth, and consequences be damned. It's coming out.
Yeah.
And it just comes.
Yeah.
It's not a question of being cruel. It's not a question of being even judgmental. I don't think. It's just, this is true and it's got to be said. It's got to be brought in.
I'm feeling this Queen of Swords energy coming up and you're like, it needs to be put out there because no one's going to
it just needs to be said. Right. It needs to be said.
Yeah. Are you talking about like messages or just kind of like telling people like kind of like you guys calm down kind of stuff, or like what kind of stuff comes?
It could actually be like via kind of a message, right? Like a transmission.
Yeah.
And then some of it is just when you get to that place of knowing. I always say, once you know something, you can't unknow it.
Yeah.
And once you know it and you've identified it and it with that deep knowing, not an ego knowing of I'm right and you guys are all wrong. It's not that. It's just this deep knowing that this is a true thing and it needs to be it needs to be birthed into the world. It needs to be spoken.
What compels you to do it? You say you feel like you need to, you have to kind of feeling, or is it like a drive, I was really wondering what like the power of Christ compel you, or I don't know. I'm trying to get the motivation. I'm curious about that because Misty had that same kind of thing. She would get this information. She had to tell. Had to say
it. It just feels like it has to be said. It has to actually be spoken. What people do with it, about it, what they do to me with or about it, none of that matters. It just has to be
interesting.
said.
That's really interesting.
It's not like, common. It's not a common occurrence, but it does happen. And when it happens, it's,
things change, don't they, in some way?
Oh, yeah. So, I guess in that respect, it might be kind of a tower thing. Look who's here.
That would be. She is. She's like, she's a tower thing. I've got one right here, too. I've got a little Einstein.
The manager's back.
Manager, podcast manager. So, Tori, what do you think about the idea of, like, do you think reality might start bending for us in the next few years, even?
Yeah, I think it already has. I don't think that this process is just starting now, but I mean, definitely. I think that, like, even just, I don't want to like get too much into like politics and stuff, but even just seeing, like, not just in the US, but what's going on the global level, the types of candidates that are gaining popularity and stuff. Like, I don't think that they would be gaining popularity if it weren't for this reality distortion, and there's a lot of, 1984 kind of stuff going on. There's a lot of rewriting of history that scares me. And I think I had said something like that to you, Lisa, in one of our conversations. But it's like with everything becoming so digitized, it's so easy to go back and change things. Versus in the past, like, if you put out a song or you write a book or whatever, like, that stays in print, and there's something preservational about that I think we're really lacking now in society. But at the same time, to also remain hopeful, I think that there's a lot of people recognizing this and that are rejecting AI and that don't, like, I feel disillusioned in my generation because it's like, I never asked for AI. I just wanted to be able to buy a house by this age. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to, like, live in I was happy with, like, the cell phone
AI
era.
can tell you how you can go about buying the house, though.
But it's just so bad, like, for the environment. And that's something that also I really don't like about it too, is like, we need all hands on deck right now to save this earth from combusting at this point.
Well, everything I've read about that, it's really blown out of proportion. It doesn't really harm the environment that much. It's just not any more than, like, our cars do. If our cars do a lot worse, our planes do a lot worse. A lot of people blow that up as a reason to get rid of AI, but that's just, like, their argument. From what I understand, comparing it to the amount of pollution everything else they use puts out. And that's then with the little bit of it does is just cooling water, and so it doesn't really harm anything. The computer microchips are tiny. It doesn't take much to do the AI. The actual facts those are blown out of proportion of what they're doing to the environment. People in the environments who live there might blow it out of proportion, but the ones who live there who don't blow it out of proportion too. So it's a lot of people just don't. I think it's because it's so unknown. People have strong opinions of what's unknown. Where can this go? But like for me, that's just kind of what I can just after watching those translation videos. It really felt like that to me. Like, gosh. Could this be like in 5 years somebody can put on a Lisa suit,
and just be right.
That's not that. It's just weird, just like that.
That's the thing I think that I find. I don't know if the word disturbing is the right word, but on some really basic level, I feel like, just like with a lot of technology, or going all the way back to the first time, some man, picked up a rock and used it as a tool, or used it as a weapon. And then my idea is that the thing is, if you will, neutral. What you do with the thing makes all the difference. And I think it could be yet another thing, another tool that could be used constructively or could be used destructively. But I think the fact, or the element that makes it different from other things that we've become accustomed to, is the fact that it really is if we're going to go there, it's kind of like, in some ways, all reality is created. Because the way we interact with our environment,
our perception is our reality.
It's a construct. It's a construct, right? We come to accept, solid objects like a tree.
Like, I agree that you are a Tori and you are a woman and you are on my screen and you exist.
We make a lot of
great musician and you're a psychic. I accept all those as reality, and you do too, right? Donna?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right, yeah.
And even physical reality. It's like, well, yeah, it's a tree. I can climb it. I could cut it down. I can go, knock on whatever, pick at the bark, whatever. But a lot of that is sort of an agreed upon thing, because on some energetic level, it's all it's all atoms, it's all molecules, and ultimately it's all pure energy.
Yeah.
It's just pure energy that's taken a shape that most of us generally agree on, and we call it a certain thing and we accept it a certain way. And so, not to go way down the rabbit hole, but but with AI, the fact that that can be done, and it can be done almost instantaneously. I mean, for you it was 24 hours to have a Hindi speaking Lisa,
And
when
Portuguese
you
and
don't speak
Spanish.
Hindi, and
Yeah.
Portuguese and Spanish, and you don't speak those languages. That, I think, the speed and the authenticity or appearance of authenticity
That's
of
what it
what's
is. The appearance of
created.
authenticity.
Well,
Yeah.
sure, because clearly that wasn't you speaking Hindi.
Right.
unless there's something you haven't told us.
Yeah, I think
secret
like
talents,
with this stuff about realities, like I think about this a lot. To me, a reality is like something that's based off of mutual consensus. Like you said, like we can all agree that we're here doing the podcast right now. That's what kind of confirms the reality. What's scary about AI is that, like, whoever's controlling the information, basically can just create an entire reality like that. And then people will start believing it. And that's what I think.
But anyone can do that without AI.
Well, that's true too, but that's what I think is dangerous about.
How's what Donna's saying? How it's used is what matters.
I agree, and that's what I think is so dangerous about this time is that, like, I think especially
there are some shitty people in the world who would use it the wrong way. Definitely, yeah,
and who are using it the wrong way. I mean, especially with this whole saga of Saturn Neptune conjunct, and like all the time they spent together in Pisces without actually reaching the perfection, and then now that they've done that in Aries, like it's just the astrology really tells the story right now of what's going on.
Tell it to us. So the listeners haven't heard it. Like you're like telling it, and then we have astrologers on here a lot, but not like how you're describing it. I'd love to hear it more. Like tell it like what you're seeing. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, like I think Saturn is kind of like the ultimate reality planet, right? Like Saturn is like the bricks and the blocks and the mortar of like what creates the 3D matrix. And like I don't say matrix in like a toxic way only, like like just like being here in a physical body, the limits of that, the limits of the world, that is Saturn, right? Neptune is like the complete antithesis of that. It's like everything that exists in fantasy and dreams and imagination. There's a lot of illusions that Neptune casts. So there's a lot of this like soupy energy that has infiltrated things that are meant to be a constant or a given or just like very matter of fact. And so there's basically been no separation between those two realms. And especially with all of the accumulation that was happening in Pisces, which is Neptune's home sign of the distortion and like what's real and what's not, and the smoke and mirrors. They've spent so much time together in that sign, but then I find it very curious that their exact conjunction point was at the 0th degree of Aries, because it does feel like a major cultural reset that's happened.
Everything
and I think
felt weird as soon as that happened. Everybody got angry and weird. I was angry for a few days.
Right. But I think there was also
no reason, really.
There's also some like Renaissance clarity, new world that I think like, and maybe I'm just an optimist, but I feel like that's trying to come out of this very like disorienting time where like, Saturn is institutions, like our institutions have failed us. Like no one has trust in the governments anymore. Like everything just feels like can I curse? Am I allowed to say sorry? Yeah. Everything feels like it's just going to shit, and it's like, but I think something that's so significant about that 0 degree point of Aries is that it's really like, okay, like when the world is ending, or so it feels like, what do you reclaim for yourself, and like, how do people kind of become their own systems? And it's not just like individualist culture. It's like, how do we also come together, Age of Aquarius type of shit, but like I think this Aries energy we're in right now is really significant because it's an opportunity for like the first time in human history I don't know, maybe not the first time, but it's a significant point in recent history where we don't have to rely on a 9 to 5 anymore. We can't because it's unstable. So that's very unsettling. But there's also an opportunity in that, I think, right now for entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And with Aries being the astrological new year,
right.
and
with healthcare, healthcare.gov.
Right.
Couldn't do all this self-employment stuff without that. Make 10,000, 20,000 a year off that, because all of it would go to Cobra, if you even could get
and
it.
that would assume that at some point you were able to not only be on a on a corporate health plan or whatever, but again, all of that stuff, all the system stuff, it's like all of the flaws, especially if I'm understanding, what Tori said is all of the systems, it's like all the flaws in all the systems became painfully obvious.
Yeah.
Right.
So then now you have this astrological new year, you have this energy point, because Aries is like again, it's like the birth point, right? Or the rebirth point.
Right.
Where you come back in new and have all of the potential available to create or recreate
a lot of potential.
I guess I would say reality, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's an invitation back into like a very primal way of experiencing life, but also with the modern tools that we have now, which I think could be a formula for something really beautiful and magical, but it can also go wrong. But like that's something too that like when I think about, like I really feel like right now is a big time for rock and roll to come back. And like
I like that. Let's go with that.
Yeah, me too.
Make it happen.
Like
Rockstar.
No, I've been talking about this for a couple of years. Like I was on the phone with my Sweetwater rep. Do you have a Sweetwater rep, Lisa? No. Do you ever use Sweetwater?
I have before.
Okay. I'm like giving them like free advertising right now, but
hey,
I know. I'm like, you gotta hit up Sweetwater after this. Well, all like a lot of musicians who use it, like we have this kind of joke that like your Sweetwater rep is like they're always checking in on you, they're very like attentive, good customer service. So anyways, I was like, I get chatty, and I was like talking to this guy. I was like, yeah, like the next 2 years is gonna be a rock and roll renaissance, like you're gonna see.
Love
like
it.
And he was kind of like, oh, okay, like but
they're even saying it, huh? I like this.
No, I was saying it to him.
No, he agreed though, right? Did you say he was agreeing or?
Yeah, but he was kind of like, oh my God, this girl's a little out there.
He's not going to be a star. Sure. He's not going to be a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. But
not in that genre.
I feel like music, like especially with this like cyber era, it's become so watered down, like the mainstream. And I think that there's just this thirst, there's this hunger right now for like this kind of like Joan Jett, like like just kind of energy to come out.
Energetically since the year 2000 or 2001 in America, especially. There's just heavy depression everywhere, and rock and roll would bring some happiness back and joy back,
and not only that,
and some realism.
And something that feels literally like visceral. I mean, like something that's happening like in your body.
Yeah.
Not in, not emo, not, whatever, not even, and not intellect.
Right.
Something that literally is primal, visceral, that hits you like in your, like in your gut. Right.
Yeah.
That's rock.
Yeah.
And where you respond from that.
Right.
And though that can be kind of, again, that can feel kind of primitive. I don't know that, especially just for as long as I'm in a physical body, right? It's like I don't want to totally surrender that. I don't want that to be all that I am, but I don't want to surrender that either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, that's a really great place. We've been talking forever. It's like
we have.
Could you not keep going down? Isn't she fascinating?
Absolutely.
I don't even want to stop, but they probably don't want to stop listening. But we probably should wrap it up because we all have lives and those things we call lives.
The Matrix is calling.
The Matrix is calling us back to the lives.
And I must go.
The reality, is it real or not? I don't know. Is it really calling me back? Anyway, Tori, where can the listeners and watchers find you? Where do you have a website or other than being an advisor on Everclear?
Yeah. So you can find me at I am Tori Costa. IAMTORICOSTA. That's my handle on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And my website is www.toricosta.co. I currently don't really have a platform for like my psychic stuff. I'm kind of like
You're still on
just focusing
Everclear,
on
right?
music stuff. Yeah, I'm on Everclear too.
Oh, what is your name on Everclear for the listeners if they might want to get a reading from you?
Victoria J.
Victoria J. And we'll put that info in the podcast.
Yeah, we'll put everything in your shouldn't say little, in your bio and in the information on the information on the
tiny
episode.
little bitty bio in your tiny.
Because all the
funny.
episode
I never
information
thought
we
about
give,
that.
we make sure people find a way, or have a way to find our guests as easily as possible.
Yeah, we just
even though we
Thank
hope
you.
that they've listened to the whole episode and listened to it multiple times.
Yeah.
For them to find you.
Okay,
and
awesome.
Also, I would love to thank Everclear, our sponsor. And Everclear is an advice app and website where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. So we've got me. I'm Lisa Rusczyk, and I'm on Everclear. There's Dona Murphy on Everclear.
Dona Murphy on Everclear.
I already forgot your name, man. I want to call you Tori. Your name's
Victoria J.
Victoria, I know it's Victoria J. I just blanked. She just said it like 6 times. Victoria J right there. If you don't like me or Donna, Victoria J. If you don't like Donna or Victoria, me or Tori. If you don't like Donna and me, I said it all wrong, didn't I? Just, if you don't like any of us, go to someone else on Everclear because they're all good.
You will find a wonderful advisor reader on Everclear.
Yes, you will. They're great. And I have a couple, one more thing. I was thinking for advice for the listeners, we usually ask our guests for a little advice. How do you want to, I kind of feel like you asking or giving some advice to the listeners out there about how to bring rock and roll back energetically, how to make that happen for everybody who wants to. We all want that to happen. We all do.
Don't
kind of weird question, but.
No, I love that question because I like giving general advice, but having a little focus is nice. So I would say don't suppress your emotions. Don't become so neutral with like all of this kind of modern culture that's telling you like your boundaries and, like this stuff is good, but also remember that you're a human being and your feelings are really powerful. And when you start learning how to kind of channel them into different things like outlets such as music or whatever you like to do, that's where your emotions can really become this kind of like generator of energy for you, and that can help you make more money, that can help you make more friends, and it can just make you happier. So acknowledge your
expressing
emotional
yourself
primal
really
experience.
makes me happy. Expressing myself makes me happy. Does it make you guys happy to express yourselves?
Yeah.
So listening and getting it, it's like,
yeah, and the emotions are actually like the gateway to your intuition as well. Because sometimes we feel like uncomfortable or we feel angry or whatever, and that's trying to tell you something. That the emotion might not be the truth itself, but it's the bridge to that.
It's something reacting to something. So what's really going on? That's a good point.
Right.
So true. Good point. Yeah. Very good point. So that's really good. This has just been a great podcast story. I just loved it. I loved it so much. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Am I forgetting? Are we forgetting something, Donna? I can't remember.
Only our last question. Which
we do have one more question. Do you love the listeners and the watchers of our podcast? Do you love our listeners and our watchers?
Do I love them? You said? Of course.
Them? She loves them. We love the listeners and the watchers.
And we love them too.
we like to save that one for last. So
and Tori, it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to meet you. This is the first time we're meeting, even though Tori and Lisa know each other. And it's been just such a pleasure and just fascinating to explore all of these different elements and how they all really do kind of come together and can be a bridge to a lot of things, not just our psychic connections, but our connections with each other, our connection with ourselves. So This has been a real joy. Thank you.
Thank you. Same for me. Thank you guys so much for having me. You guys are both great.
Anytime you want to come.
So happy to be connected.
Anytime you have a few hours to kill.
It's fun. It's fun. It's not just fun. I think these are good conversations.
I love this. This is what I am. I live for this kind of thing,
I just want to affirm like what you guys are doing here, because I think you guys are helping to like normalize the psychic world and make it more accessible for people. So I appreciate that.
That's one of the aims I have for doing this. explaining to people what's going on with them if they don't know, if they're like trying to figure out. Yeah, and they a lot of times, like when I was happening to me in the beginning, I heard a lot of woo woo kind of to me at the time. They sounded woo woo, and even now, I would say some of the things I heard were woo woo, as to the point to where it's like so out there, I can't hit it, I can't grasp it, and most of the people who try to explain to me what was happening to me in these areas in a metaphysical way when I was younger, they were trying to take advantage of me in some way. You know, like older people in the industry wanting to bring me into their ministry or something like that. That's watchers and listeners, keep out for, like, that's not what we do here.
Right.
We just
a lot of that.
Like, I've always walked on my own. So like that's kind of how I did it. But I had a lot of those experiences where, not a lot, but enough, where, you know, if I did go into a metaphysical community or shop or area, you know, I started engaging with people, there would be the guru, you know, or somebody like that, or people, you know, there's just a hierarchy even in the metaphysical worlds and societies. And I don't like that, you know. So it's that is out there, listeners and watchers. And so discernment is really important to know, like, what people want and what you want. That's we could just keep talking, Tori.
I know. I'm such a talker. I have sun in the third house, so like talk.
That's true.
And I think my Mercury's in the 11th house, and I'm with two friends right now. So, you know. All right, guys. And thank you so much, listeners and watchers. We love you. And everyone said so. That's the truth.
Yes.
Have a great time, maybe. Yeah. And go check
We'll see.
her out. And we'll see you later.
Again soon.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Bye for now.